Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, Sleeping Warrior, who's that trying to join Chocolate saying, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning, all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. This show does have a public chant, so if you are watching live, you can actually chat. It's normally members only, but not today. So feel free to chat away. I might bring it up if there's any interesting discussions that go on in the public live stream chat. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Only in the maths.
Agreed. Only it's a calculation, not a measurement.
They don't like being told that either. It's a really sharp weapon. Don't underestimate the significance of telling them that they calculate the Earth curve. They don't demonstrate it by measurement because they don't understand the difference between calculation and measurement.
Any evidence?
So how was that allowed to get by so fast?
It took a while for us to
Where is
spot
that
it.
allowed? Where is that allowed?
We had that with
Not
Al
here.
Rooney.
Yeah.
It's a good point. If they'll say, no, but I measure the angle, but they do measure the dip angle, but everything else is then just calculated from presupposition.
Yeah, but why were they allowed to get away with that? That's what I'm saying. If it's a calculation and you never see the curves,
Paul,
how come nobody said anything?
Paul, can you pop yourself on mute?
Because it's locally flat, Neil.
Wait, I did. What's today? Is today always refracted day, or is it's never refracted day? What day is today?
It's
I forget.
past both of those
It
days.
depends.
It's now claim it was a necessity and a proof of the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, and then lie about it being refracted now that the black swan has come into existence. That's the position now.
I just want to echo those words. If they calculate the Rayleigh criterion as though it's a sphere, you can backwards engineer, you can backwards calculate what the Earth might be if it were a sphere of a given size. If you apply the Rayleigh calculation, I've challenged Professor Phil Bell, I call him Phil. I've challenged him to show us two graphs, one that demonstrates the removal. See, when Rumpus does his orthographic drawing, right, he'll imply that you can see Paris from New York, no matter how far away it is, no matter how small it is. And because you can see it as a straight line. But what he'll never do is take off the Rayleigh criterion. But if he did take off the Rayleigh criterion from that orthographic drawing, then there would be obstruction from the bottom up. And that obstruction just so happens to match the same rates as the hidden value on the geometric curve. You can draw two lines on a graph that shows the exponential curve that is, or the exponential amount of hidden that is caused by the application of the Rayleigh criterion against the amount of hidden that is caused by the Earth curve. And they're almost identical. That's why that's what they've done. They've backwards calculated it.
Hopefully we can see Flatsoid on the show, because I need to give him slight apology, because I criticised, or not criticised, demeaned his focus on Katz's description of the angle coming back from the bottom of the boat or target in the distance to the observer. So the angle gets wider from the target to the observer. Absurd, a way of getting around The fact that if you held up a protractor to the target and had 0 being the marked point where you can't see anything, exampled by, just as one example, a propeller in the water. What's the angle to the propeller? 0. You can't see it. Well, what about just above the water? Can you see? Yes, you can. So the starting point is the water. That's where your 0 angle begins, and then you work up from there. Well, the bottom is the most limited part of that angle. Well, that's going to be where the diffraction limit kicks in first, because it's the most limited angle. Now, they have to deny that and even lie about it, as Katz has done. What's the word that Anthony would use in this circumstance? Not lying. My bad. Intellectual dishonesty. That needs a heavy dose of intellect.
If you then add the atmospheric condition that we observe on people like Red Rhetoric's videos or Tim Osmond's videos or anybody that does observations at the distant turning torso, you can see that things get squashed at the bottom side. Don't know why they do it, but they do it. We can demonstrate it with all of the evidence that anybody has ever taken ever of the horizon. Things appear to get squashed. We would call that convergence with the horizon because it's the convergent point and it's a function of reducing the angle. But they've got no explanation for this. And if you blur out that obstruct or that compression, if you blur it out because the reduction of the angle coincides with the compression, it does appear to be curve. It does appear to be, well, where's the beach? Well, the beach is there. It's just being squashed and you can't resolve it because it's too small. That's how they've done it. That is the backwards engineering of the maths.
Indeed. There's a reason it gets labelled by us. The begging the question, that would be to assume your outcome with an R value. Proof of nothing, because it's assuming its outcome with an R value. Perspective hijacking, because the basic geometric values correspond with the Rayleigh criterion. Well, correlation isn't necessarily causation. You can't say that they have backwards engineered it. However, it's highly coincidental that things will disappear into the distance based on a limited angle against the deck coincides with a geometric value that they give you as a hidden ratio with Earth curve obstruction when targets don't change in angular size with distance. They remain at a feet or meters value. So it is coincidental. Nevertheless, it doesn't change the fact that this effect, which has now been conceded by our opponent in the form of a Katz presentation about the Rayleigh criterion with let's call it a healthy dose of intellectual dishonesty in terms of the angle to the bottom of the item being viewed. If you work out the angle to where it is most limited, i.e. you can't see below the deck, the propeller can't be seen, but above it can, that's the 0 angle. Therefore, the most limited angle is to the bottom of something versus the deck, and the widest is infinite, if you want to look at it in that manner, to the sky, because there's nothing limiting it at all. You can look right behind you. So therefore, what's going to give you the 0 point to start measuring where you get this limited angle? Well, it's going to be at the deck, at the bottom, and what's going to be the point where you can't resolve the two different items described in the Rayleigh criterion? Well, one would be the sea and one would be the boat. You can't tell the difference between the bottom of the boat and the sea. Ergo, if it was a brick on land, you could put a brick, measure its angle, and then tell us with the Rayleigh criterion precisely when it will vanish completely from view. No longer be capable of being resolved. That would be to see it. Now, at the point of that... Go on.
Do you know what Professor Phil Bell actually told me today? And I'll get this. You know, we're saying about how ballers are reversing our arguments and then you trying to use it against us. He actually told me that when I pointed out that if you had a 13-story hospital, for example, and it was the distance away that makes the hospital get close to that angle, then when the hospital as a whole gets close to the angle, then cut that hospital in half and measure the angle for the bottom half of it, then you've got an angle that is then significantly below that angle, and then it's not going to be resolved. The top half of the hospital as a whole can be, as a whole, the hospital can be. And he said, yeah, but on the top of the angle, the top of the hospital, the blocks at the top of the hospital, they would be resolved. They would also be not resolved as well. And I said, that's correct, because you've got such a small angle that you can't resolve the top nor the bottom. And then do you know what he said? He said, if you were to get a better camera, you would be able to see it. And I was like, fuck me, that's what we've been saying for years.
So let me get it straight. He described something that is completely devoid of being accounted for in Earth curve mathematics, because as depicted on screen, the mathematics for an Earth with a sphere and a radius of 3959 has the target remain the exact same size regardless of any distance. Now, at this scale, on this drawing, how far is the boat from the man? Couple of thousand miles based on this scale on a sphere Earth. Well, why is the
Yeah,
boat
yeah.
absolutely enormous? Well, because in their presentations and representations of how we are apparently supposed to be seeing the world, the boat doesn't change in size. Well, it's still a 100-foot boat. It's a massive boat. All right. So that boat is going to be 100 foot at 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles. So it doesn't reduce in angle then. It's just the actual size we're going to be factoring in when we account for how much curve, physical geometry gets in the way of the bottom of it. That's what this picture depicts, their maths and how it works. Well, in their maths, you see the side of your own head and are accounted for as being a 6-foot man. And the boat, let's say it's 100 foot for easy numbers, is accounted for 100 foot regardless of distance. Well, based on the way this is presented, it's a little bit more crude because I can't show you what I mean by limited angle. But if you draw a centre line through the bottom of the boat, that angle below that 90-degree line is smaller. This angle here is smaller than this angle here in very crude terms. Well, they say that the Earth curve's got in the way. It's like, well, this is the most reduced angle. At however many thousand miles at this scale, the angle to the bottom of this boat would be so acute you wouldn't be able to resolve it. It's beyond the diffraction limit. And what do they say? No. What did they say? No, we're only dealing with the geometry, not optics. No need for perspective, it's geometrically accounting for it. So we can account for how things in the distance, for thousands of miles away by scale in this representation, are still going to be 100 foot regardless. So therefore, when they start disappearing from the bottom at the most limited angle against the deck, we'll say Earth curve got in the way. That's the magic trick.
I noticed that when they
It's wrong though. Curve function collapse.
notice
No.
when they Nathan said that they never reduce the size of the ship no matter how far away it gets. That's because if you were to look where it was important, where the angle is created at the lens, once that angle gets below the number that's required, then that boat then can't be resolved. But they put that down to Earth curve, but they never depict it in their imagery like that. They always show the boats being the same size, and even if they do, they never focus on the angle. They always focus on like the Earth curve. So they're just completely brainwashing you.
It's interesting because I remember back in 2019 that they were getting P900s and P1000s. And people like Sean Hawkins was all behind this. Not that his opinion has any weight on any side of this argument, but you had many of the ballers joining in with him and others, right? When videos of them, what they did, they were taking videos from low elevations, right? In the southern, south of the equator, right, where you have in Western Australia and Hawaii and places, we have tsunami wave shoaling, which causes a welling up, like a welling up of water due to the steep topography underneath the water. It causes the incoming tide and even the outgoing tide to cause a lift of water. But what they'll do is they wait for the incoming tide for this water to hit the topography and then lift. That's basically what it does. Tsunami wave shoaling, it lifts the water. So they end up with an actual blockage, right? An actual blockage, right? So they're looking at a ship in the distance, and the mean height, let's say, of the water is actually above their center lens of their camera. So they're seeing a ship in the distance that has changed in angular size, and they're showing this wave, right, the tsunami wave shoaling, actually blocking half of the ship. And as the ship moves away, it appears to disappear behind the wave, right, because it's changing in angular size. But and they were using P900s and P1000s, and the ship is only like a couple of miles away. Like you could see it. Like the P1000 could zoom. You could see what the guys are eating for lunch on the thing if they wanted with the P1000. And what was their claim? See, even with a P1000, right, you can do max zoom and you'll never be able to see the ship once it goes over the horizon. And now Phil Bell is claiming that if you had a good enough one, you could zoom to it. That was their actual argument. Only go back to 2019, that was their argument. That's what they were doing.
That doesn't sound like Earth curve, does it?
I was going to say, that's
Can I
not
just
Earth
address
curve then.
that?
Zoom
Claim.
and it comes back. What about it being behind Earth curve? Oh, right, it's optics now. Obviously, it's our argument from 3 years ago that was called perspective, right?
Exactly.
Mate, I think we've discussed
Welcome to
this
the party,
in
Phil Bell.
the past, guys. We quoted last week Panda Boat. That shows the compression how the same bands obtain a relatively smaller angular size the lower down the boat they are. It's also been demonstrated on some hotel buildings where the balconies become thinner and smaller and then disappear into nothing before not seeing the bottom of the building. But we've compared the width of the balconies at distance, and you can see that compression and reduction in angular size on the same building as it goes to the bottom as well.
Yeah, that was Red Pill Philosophy. I remember that coming out.
Yeah. So it's odd that they're now, once again, kind of reverse citing it, as you said, Nathan. It's odd we're covering the old ground with them kind of half accepting it, but half denying it, or trying to paint it as useful as supporting their argument, I think, more than...
Yes, that's what they're doing.
As if and
it's failing.
They're admitting the knowledge of it, aren't they? It's a bit like what we accused Cats of last week. They're admitting the knowledge of it and then hand-waving it as if just because they've given a good description, it means it's no longer valid and not relevant, so we can ignore it again. It's not destroying their argument. It's very strange.
Yeah, it was better when they were hand-waving it.
Think of the irony that for years we've been calling this calculator of theirs the proof of nothing beggar the question perspective hijacking, which is, I think, the most important point on this one. And they themselves would tell us, yeah, you guys are using perspective. That's some nonsense that you guys are making up. Fast forward to 2021, and now you're telling us about perspective, reminding us of...
You're breaking up.
Perspective hijacking.
You're breaking up a bit, Chocolate, but we got the general gist.
Oh, I'm sorry. That works.
Move on.
Can you guys hear me, by the way?
We can. We can't let Sleeping Warrior. I muted him because of his incessant clicking on his mouse with his mic open.
All right, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to take note that Simon Dan is in chat, and he says he can't come in the panel because Neil deGrasse Tyson said so. What?
Wow.
Really?
He's the boss, I told you.
Oh.
We'll cover
Smoking the grass didn't give you permission to come on here and defend your reference frames?
Can we not dwell too long on Dan's sarcasm about Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yep.
Let's cover a couple of Simon Dan topics as it's chronologically correct. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, you've
Other
had
than
your
reference frames being ruined.
I was going to say you've had your reference frames ruined, Nathan, so no.
I think rotisserie chicken is valid at this point.
The Earth-based variety. There is a positive assertion that two reference frames, inertial and non-inertial Coriolis deviation, proves we spin. That's the claim. Obviously, you and your reference frames have been ruined, fundies. Go ask Simon Dan.
So you're saying I can't wing it with chicken?
No, you can't.
I like the rotisserie comment there, Chant.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That's the heat source for the chicken.
I'm going to fillet a complaint.
Doesn't the Black Swan debunk that?
Yes. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No, but we can calculate it as though we could have a container, according to what's his name, that Dave guy, Just Dave or Professor Dave. He said you don't need an actual container; any volume will do. You can calculate it, so they calculate it into existence. It's one of the best. I'm gonna have to snip that out for John. John's gonna love that when he hears that.
What they do is assign an arbitrary volume, but make sure that arbitrary volume isn't anywhere near the total available volume that would be available to the gas to disperse into. Because if they use that number, it'd ruin everything. So they use an arbitrary number to almost like drawing a Kalman line and calculating a volume based on an imaginary line.
Well,
I
they
think it
make-
has
they're-
to.
I didn't think they needed a container at all. Why do they need a not actual container now for their maps to work?
Well, they need a virtual container because otherwise they can't calculate the gas pressure because you need a container to calculate that.
It has a high mortality rate. They sent people into a container without gas pressure, and they never came out.
Or is that because
Okay.
maps are abstract? So if you're just doing maps to prove your point, you don't actually have to bring these things into reality. You could just reify it into reality by just saying it exists because you did the math. Is that how
No.
that works?
No, if you did the maths and used the numbers that they purport to be, it would demonstrate that your point is impossible. That's why they can't use those numbers. But it would demonstrate there is no gas pressure here if you were to use their numbers.
Any evidence?
But you
that-
can't calculate gas pressure unless you have a container.
Yeah, it's the
And
V.
if you're going to assume there isn't a container, you still need a virtual container in order to calculate the gas pressure, right? There's no escaping from this.
Yes, it's the V. Volume. Their volume is a vast space called space.
The observable universe, is what is it? What does it come out to be? Oh, ridiculous. Volume 3.566 times 10 to the 80 meters cubed. So that's the number they should be making available for the gas to escape into, but they don't. But if they did, it would disprove their point, wouldn't it?
How do they have a volume again?
They have the volume of space. That's the volume. The availability of volume would be the space the gas can fill. And their space is even called space because they're laughing at you, fundies. The space that the gas would occupy is called space. That's your V to calculate entropy increase.
3.566 times 10 to the power of 80. That's big, meters cubed.
I thought it was 3.58.
Maybe it's shrunk a bit.
Just a smidgen.
We stopped detailing the rebellious gas particles, didn't we? Yes, Nathan. I remember that story. It was really amusing. Me too.
The revolt started at the Kármán line, as I recall.
That's correct.
The little
first-
particle that wouldn't.
That's the one. Natural law. That's not for me. I'm burning my bra right here. I will name this place Kármán. This is the line I draw.
GLM. Gaseous lives matter. We wouldn't go.
Gaseous lives matter. That's right. Of course, eventually they all put on weight and went down, go boom boom.
They had little springs pulling them back.
Something like
They made a movie about it. They called it Carmen's Line.
that. Right.
He's right here in San Diego. Too old for you guys?
Probably. Nobody reacted.
There's Kármán, San Diego.
Where in the world is Kármán San Diego?
Georgie fucking Musa.
Georgie fucking Musa.
Where
That was
in the
great.
world is Georgie fucking Musa?
Hey, no
Yeah.
swearing, please. Not on the live show. If
I'm
you possibly
singing.
avoid
It's not considered swearing if you sing it.
It is. Anyway, moving on. Any evidence the distance to the sun?
What's that again?
Distance to the
No.
sun? Any
No.
evidence thereof?
I asked somebody Saturn Day when I was fishing. I said I was talking to this Muslim guy. This is so cool because I found 2 more flat earthers.
Cool.
I said, dude, does that sun look 93 million miles away? We were talking about stuff, and he says, no. And I know what you're going for. You know, it says the same thing in the Quran. And we got along right away. He said, does water curve? He said, no, man. I know what you're saying.
No way.
The earth is flat.
See, this is where I've got a bit of a theory that, theoretically speaking, like what this topic should do is it should unite all the religions, but I reckon it'll probably divide. But realistically speaking, it should unite us all because we've all generally got the same principle. We generally understand that there was something that created it. Who cares what? Wasn't the result of a cosmic ejaculation. It should unite the religions, but I don't know whether it would.
It should. It should. We understood each other. He said, in the so-called Old Testament, when we talked about the firmament, and he says, yeah, it says the same thing in the Quran. And then he says to me, it's the same God, right? And I said, of course. They just make these different religions to make us fight. And he said, yeah, I have no.
Well, I got news for you. It's not the same God. They plagiarized the Old Testament, so that's why he said it.
Allah be praised.
The moon god.
The moon god on Moon Day. Well, I was talking to him on Saturn Day.
You'll find the New Testament's just a plagiarization of the Quran, and Jesus was merely a prophet.
That's what they say, but you'll be held accountable for
it. Get out, you racist bastard.
Well, you can make up stuff. I can make up stuff. Anyone can make up stuff.
How dare you call them
they? It becomes true.
There you go. Now you're a baller.
Yeah.
I want to make up horizons that are defined as things you see, but you actually don't have ones that you see. It's great.
That's a religion. Right. Appreciation of an aspect of your reality, that would be that it's flat. That's not a religion. Now, worshipping the sun as being at the center of your world, that's a religion.
Indeed.
Heliocentrism, that's a religion. An appreciation of an
aspect. And when they
that's
don't
not.
agree with that, when you ask them, what's the name of your little model? Heliocentrism? Who's Helios?
Thanks. When we were in Amsterdam at the train station, it's quite interesting what Tony's saying. Yeah, it's flat Earth is quite unifying in that. There was a group of Dutch guys that had come up, and I think half of them were Muslim and half weren't. And they were very cocky on their science. And when I found out they're Muslim, I went, oh, so I did quote Surah 15:19, which I'll read to you. And the earth we have spread out and placed therein firm hills and caused each seemingly to grow therein. Another one, 20:53. He who has made for you the earth like a carpet spread out has enabled you to go about therein by roads and channels. And then the last one, yea, he has made for you the earth like a carpet spread out and made for your roads and channels therein in order to find guidance. And there's a number of stuff about the earth and that, all constantly in unequivocal terms describing the earth and the skies as flat, the skies like a carpet. It describes when Jesus returns in the Quran, how the skies will unroll like a rug. There's much unity if you just read the texts and see the message that God gives both sets of people.
Why would I look at the Quran for that?
Why not? Why not?
Because that's false.
Why? How do you know? How many times have you read the Quran, Neil?
I've read enough of it. I didn't read the whole thing through like the Bible, but
So
how
you
many
haven't-
times have you read the Quran?
So you haven't
and compared it
even-
with the scriptures?
So you haven't
I
even
have.
read it?
Yes, I have. It doesn't even flow.
What's the last
It
testament
doesn't
called?
even flow like the Bible. Oh,
What's
I
the
don't
last-
know like the Bible. Come on,
what's-
Nathan.
What's the last
I don't
testament
know
of
like
the
I
Quran?
know the Bible.
You won't let me ask. What's the last testament called?
I don't know like I know the Bible.
You haven't
But
read
I've
it.
read enough of it to know that you see, this man was raised by Catholics and Jews, and he got mixed up somewhere.
It's a conglomeration of everything. It's so mixed up.
Exactly.
There's a guy who speaks and reads Arabic. He's got a channel. His name is Christian Prince. He debates them like you, Nathan, just like you do Flat Earth and Ballers. He says, I only want to talk to Muslims. Come on the show. He's got debate after debate after debate, and he just goes right to the Arabic. And Muslims are converting, and they're leaving Islam because he's showing them what it says and how ridiculous it is.
Showing that he's showing
My
that
point really wasn't to attack another religion. It was to say, I think if we look at all the religions and we look closely and just analyze what the text says, I don't know any other than maybe Tom Cruise's Scientism that purports space as they take. Most of them describe it as a flat, whether that's Vedic, Old Norse, Islam, Buddhism, or even Christianity.
Well, don't the Mormons have space too? They get a planet, don't they?
I think would I be right in saying, Meekin, your point was that it unifies the religions rather than divides any particular ones?
Yeah, it's certainly, like I said, when we was in Amsterdam, the fact that these guys were Muslim was a strength to me in terms of discussing the flat earth message, because I knew within their scripture that it states just as firmly as it does in ours. I don't need to correct them. I'm just happy to show them those bits in the Quran, which they accepted and really did chew on.
I would agree with Adam on that one point. Yes.
We're going to move on in housekeeping terms.
Please.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
The Quran. No.
Calculate it.
Did someone say the Quran?
I got some, but don't hold me to it.
What's the scientific evidence in the Quran?
No. I don't think there is either. I was being flippant.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, sorry. I did read something about that. There is something I found. Give me a minute.
Hold your tongue, white Christian heathen.
There was.
What was the question again?
Any scientific evidence of gravity? Oh my God, what's going on today?
No scientific evidence. They need it for their sphere, though.
No evidence whatsoever. Maybe Bob's got some. Bob got anything?
Who?
Who's Bob?
I don't know what you're talking
Plum
about.
Bob. I get you. Nice one.
You can't just throw it out there and leave massive pauses.
Plum Bob. He knows.
No, we're not going to find out.
No, he meant Plum Bob.
Any?
Right?
What even is gravity?
Are two
Yeah, but with the
lines
Plum
parallel?
Bob, there's strings attached.
That was it.
Oh my God, dude, you should be punished. You should be put in a penitentiary.
I am punished. Only you laughed.
He
Got it,
should be
Nathan.
punished.
Yeah, he got me on that one, Chocolate. It's unstoppable.
And penitentiary.
So, to come back to it, the other week I was looking in. We were talking about the firmament, so I was doing a bit of reading into that in terms of superior and inferior waters and stuff. I'd say I do go across other scriptures, and the bit I came across was, because to me it was useful and I'll read it. It says, "Do the unbelievers not see that the heavens and the earth were joined together before we separated them, and that we brought about all living things into existence from water? Why do they still not believe in God?" And it goes into this separation, but they were kind of claiming that, and this is just, you see, just as much dodgy scientism and trying to force scripture into the heliocentric, but they were kind of trying to claim that this was the Big Bang, and then the collapse of it. So only bullshitly put in, like you would see gravity put in to ours. But again, a really nice thing about creation there that shares the same thing as the Bible. And say, for me, often stuff like this adds a little bit more detail.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Still waiting. No response from Dr. Becky.
Is that it? That's the only lead we've got at the moment. Dr. Becky replying in terms of her comments that she can do science when responding to emails.
Well, she's taking the Neil deGrasse Tyson approach, I think. When I asked her the questions, just the people in chat started jumping all over. Oh, he's a flat earther. He's this, he's that. Just answer the question then. And she's seeing that other people are, fighting the battles for her, so she's not going to answer. Just like Neil deGrasse.
I just want to point out what Tense just said there is so true. Like if bald earthers come into our chat, our comments, no one really cares. I might respond to them periodically. Sometimes I'll actually block them if they're just being rude. But if we go onto one of their channels, what happens is all their subs become their gatekeepers, so they don't even have to respond. They can just rely on their own deluded people to get the point across. That's what they do.
That's exactly what happens.
Mm.
It's all very dull. Excuse me. They have tactics. We have winning arguments.
Which, by the way, since Nathan's joining, I was getting something done with my car, so I couldn't speak that much. But I would recommend that you check out that Muslim guy, 10th Man posted. I don't know if he posted it.
I'll post it later.
Master B, but that was really good. You got to listen to it.
Yeah, he's got lots of debate. Christian Prince.
Unreal. It brought. I'm telling you, at the end of it, it brought tears to my eye.
Okay.
But
Good to
it's
know.
right because it dismisses religion.
No. He was ministering to a Muslim guy, and at the end of it, when he asked him if he wanted to accept Christ, the guy just said, "Yeah." And just the way it happened, just listen to the whole thing, it just made me emotional. And I was so glad that he didn't go into this whole repeat after me, Lord Jesus, I'm a sinner. Blah. He didn't have to do all of that. It was really good. I just recommend you listen to
Just
it.
so you know,
back to Flat Earth.
You do appreciate that I'm a Rastafarian. I'm not a Muslim.
That's why your channel is jamming.
I mean, I could tell by the dreads,
Oh, he just said that's why your channel is jamming. We're jamming. That's a Bob Marley song. Good one, 10th.
Now everyone
Chocolate had a good one.
Now everyone likes their donuts.
What did Chocolate say? I missed it.
Not with
I
chocolate.
dread not repeat it.
No, not with chocolate in. With jam in. Anyway.
Come on, Nathan.
Got to add some peanut butter with that.
That's it. That's concluded the housekeeping. I don't think I missed it.
Too much fun, huh?
Now, let's get into these aliens, shall we? If housekeeping is over, why not deal with the aliens that the government has let out information that, yes.
No, they can't come in because they refuse the vaccine.
Are they vaccinated? Oh, dear. Very funny. Okay.
I never knew anybody with the cove, but I already know somebody with the side effect from the vaccine.
This isn't a discussion about vaccination, right?
By the way,
I just wanted to say that. That's all.
Fascinating.
Hold on.
My
I
question.
walked into
Oh,
Walmart.
hold on. Let me set the tone. If we're going to talk about bloody aliens, let's set the tone. I want to ask a question of the panel, including Discord. So I've just scrapped my way through, see if everyone's off mute. What I want to know is from flatties, not necessarily from globeheads, based on your recognition that the Earth is flat, do you therefore discount, i.e. rule out, not allow in your paradigm, the notion of aliens? Doesn't matter what form we're talking about in terms of aliens either. Just does it rule it out for you as a flat earther? Can I just get a round robin from everyone? Go ahead.
Me, no.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hold on. Who said pretty much?
Apprentice.
Apprentice, thank you. Anybody else?
No
I'm
extraterrestrial.
just waiting for sniveling,
That doesn't mean there's not
cowardly
extraterrestrial.
dogs.
Not two at a time. No extraterrestrials, I heard from Harp. Thank you very much. Anybody
Right, but that doesn't mean no extra dimensionals. Wow, I can't get it out. All right, never mind.
No extra-dimensional extraterrestrials, did you say?
I said no extraterrestrials doesn't mean no extra dimensionals.
Yeah, okay, quite the contrary to what I thought I heard. Glad you clarified. Anybody else got an opinion on this? While you're thinking about it, thanks to Flat Earther, who says, thanks again for destroying the spinning balls, pseudoscience, globe diarrhea. Thank you very much, Flat Earther, for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. I just want to get a couple more opinions. So far, we've got two.
I would
Go on.
I would say we're not in a position to know either way.
Okay. Anybody else?
Say the little green men that we were taught about growing up has gone out the window, but potentially there could be other human beings on other lands that come and visit us.
Yeah, I'm with that notion. Like the whole extraterrestrial. I mean, terrestrial just means land, right? Extra land that we don't know about.
Okay,
To me,
so technically I stand corrected.
Hold on,
Just-
hold on. Chocolate's
just
leading this
knowing
on.
about-
Just let Chocolate go,
Sorry,
because he's leading this on to the next part of the conversation, which is perfect. Carry on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, to me, it doesn't negate the existence of something from somewhere else. It just might negate the original story of where these other people or things are coming from. But
Correct.
as far as the existence of them, that doesn't, because
I
I
get
can't
that.
validate that. You know what I mean?
Chocolate, I get that all the time when I'm traveling and they say, "Where are you from?" I go, "California."
So you think you're an alien?
Who doesn't? You see how California's going?
Okay, so we've got the segue. Jokes aside, so the segue being there's plenty of people who would assert that the amount of land that is accessible or claimed to be in existence may be less than the actual amount of land that is accessible. In other words, there might be more land, and therefore extra terror, and therefore an extraterrestrial could be the same as discovering somebody of a different colour on a different continent that you didn't know existed before, something that we can easily detail in our recent history, having had it happen according to the history books in the way that is described. And we also have the easy comparison when aliens are described as illegal aliens. That's precisely what they're describing, someone from a different territory that shouldn't be in that territory. Well, all of those descriptions point to, if the horizon is the limitation in terms of where you can go, as opposed to the sky and an infinite expanding sky vacuum, then there's every realistic possibility that there might be more people and more creatures. Well, there could be a creature that's like what they describe as a grey alien out there. There's nothing ruling that out. There might be that already here in the land that we already have. You know, that's not beyond the realms of possibility either. So, therefore, what they describe as aliens is, for me at least, very much within the realms of possibility. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying you can't rule it out. And why not? But ultimately, their description comes from a sky vacuum. They have extraterrestrials coming from other terra firma, and other terra firma isn't land at the horizon. It's land out in the sky vacuum. So their aliens are very different to the aliens that I'm saying could potentially exist out towards the horizon, because we don't have an out towards the sky vacuum.
And Nathan, I got something to say about that too. You know, it's weird that they even call it extraterrestrials, because why isn't it called extraplanetaries, or just why Terra and why extra Terra? Because extra Terra could literally be just mean, roughly translated, more land, more Terra, more
I just
than
said this.
understanding.
I just said that. I just explained this 10 seconds ago. So extra terra for us, if you're a more land earther or whatever you call yourself, if you're that particular persuasion, you'd say that there's more land out towards the horizon. You travel out further along the plane that we dwell atop, and you might find other people, whereas they have a description of other terra firma, being the other lights in the sky that's the land that we can't reach.
Right.
And it would just be
I'd call it
proven by
extra Roman
Darwin
at this point.
Well, we would
when
go
Darwin
what?
was doing island hopping.
Island hopping.
He was discovering all kinds of different beasts and creatures. Even just looking at the Galapagos, there's species on there that have never been seen anywhere else on any other continent. So the possibility of these extra lands having extraordinary creatures and potentially pygmy people or giant people, I think that probability is very high.
Right. So we live in a nicely isolated, which also expands onto the question of there might be different motives for why we are, let's just call it segregated into the section of land that we are currently on. Maybe that's for the greater good. You just don't know. Where people have a nefarious outlook of the powers that should not be. Could it be the case that they went, okay, well, if we just let you all loose, you'd all get eaten. Look at this out here. You just don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Maybe.
Well, they've kept us looking up in the air and expecting from the sky. So we've been expecting and looking up into the sky for people who are other people than the human being that we know. So we haven't been looking out the way, we've been looking up the way, and that's the way they've kept us. And we don't know, we have, as I said, we can't say it away, we know so little. All we know is that you can't bring tangents to refracted horizons.
Indeed.
We don't know a whole lot more than that, do we?
No, we're very ignorant. The more we progress on this journey, Brian, the more ignorant I feel, if I'm ruthlessly honest.
Me too.
But there we go. It brings a smile to my face at the same time, because that brings me a sense of childlike wonder about the world that we do live in. And that's a marvellous thing. One of the things I was also going to go on to was the term for their hunt for the ET people is called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. In other words, the implication of the people out in the ever-expanding infinite nothingness that is their space has a timeline implication in terms of their story of the mathematical certitude that there would be life out in the infinite expanding ever increasing nothingness of space. Well, that derivative will give you a timeline that will ultimately end in potential travel through the Einsteinian world of space and time for them to arrive as intelligent beings. It's just a charade, a story. That's all it is. But that is very much from the sky vacuum that you can have the lengths of time for them to develop the intelligence, for them to be little grey aliens that come and potentially want to kidnap us to find out how we function biologically or whatever nonsense stories we've been fed in the past.
Well, if I go biblically, then they're demons looking for a body to dwell in.
I was going to come to that next, Neil. You might as well expand on that.
The problem is that how do you tell if you're a Christian believing, a Bible believing person, and aliens turn up from outside the horizon? How do you tell if you already have a pre-assumption of what they are? How do you tell?
It's called
Hold on, that's the whole
it's easy.
thing.
It's easy. It's called the dip angle.
No, they're gonna think there's gonna be a great falling away in the church. Their faith is gonna be rocked. That's how it's gonna go down, I believe.
What church?
Didn't the Pope already say, like, if the aliens show up, he'll be happy to baptize them or something?
Yeah, that's the
church
whole thing.
has a body of believers, not a building.
That's
a
what
body
Neil
of
is.
believers.
Yeah, but that's go on, Ted.
Yes, thanks, Brian. Yeah, Chocolate's right. So this is all the preparation for it. So, like I said last week, just scan the internet. Lots of UFO shows being broadcasted on mainstream media if you own the TV. Here locally in America, Tucker Carlson ran a few days. I heard a whole week on it, which is weird. But then you see all these, titles with the Pope wanting to baptize aliens. And, space is very much in the forefront. Aliens are very much in the forefront right now. So they're just preparing us for something, because the next big show is going to be in the sky. And as Neil said, from the biblical point of view, which if you're not a Christian, you may or may not accept, they're demons and they're here to fool you.
Indeed. So a presentation that has a heliocentric backstory, should there be any visitors from the sky, is quite useful in terms of their paradigm and narrative. As long as everyone's all under the assumption that the sky vacuum is going to be where they're coming from, and the light year distances and potential time dilation overcoming mechanisms that they have created to get here, intelligence included, is potentially experienceable, when it could be something far more nefarious that we just don't appreciate.
It's kind of correct. Hang on, Nathan. It's kind of your fault, though. You know that, right?
My fault.
Yeah, let me explain. See, since they launched their geometric horizon, they need help now.
Might be true.
Help. You're saying that the heliocentric protagonists are in themselves demons and they need help from
No.
their
I'm saying
overlords.
they've lost every argument, every question, every geometric possibility due to limitations of their radius. They said, well, how are we going to keep this lie going? Well, what if we get some aliens to come? That'll prove it. So
Yeah, they got to push it forward.
yeah, they got to keep it going.
Maybe the visitors are the rebellious gas particles that advanced their civilization, and now they've come back with ships because they're gas, but they're rebellious gas, so they don't need to actually act like gas. They could just get in ships and fly around. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Well, they tend to wander about and they got sprayed.
Oh, they run off, don't they? Thanks, Ruppus.
So it's the contrast between the potential for there being other nations of people that are just like us on other land, or other extraordinary creatures in the same circumstance out at the horizon, as opposed to little green men coming from a sky vacuum.
You know that map? I don't know how real it is, but supposedly it was claimed to be real, where it's a Japanese map where it shows what we know, the lands we know in the center, and the other lands outside of the Antarctica.
Kobayashi.
Yeah, it's the Kobayashi, yes. Correct.
Yeah. Well, if that is a correct map, if it has any relevance, then there is something outside of that.
Yeah, Kaiser Sose.
No, Kobayashi. So I've got one of the slides on this slideshow is the Kobayashi map next to the coronavirus, the depiction of it when it first came out. I was like, oh wow, they look very similar. I put them side by side. Anyway.
Or there could be other lands outside of, let's say that map was correct, but there might be nobody on them lands. Who knows?
The story I heard about that map, was that map found? Like, obviously this is just anecdotal, but wasn't it found in like some cave or something? If I'm wrong, if we're talking about the same map, or we're talking about the one like looks like the
Yes, I think the story I heard was that the guy got it, had to like fill up like this Hessian bag with sand, and then he placed it on this rock, took the map, and then everything around him started to collapse, and a big ball started to chase him. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
I was actually being slightly serious, but yeah, we could go with that.
You're always painting a doomsday picture, Nathan.
I do have
Have you guys ever read
for Simon
Chuck
Dan,
Missler's
in chat
Alien
and he's
Encounter?
listening.
I have a special request for Nathan. Can I ban him from chat? You don't have to say yes. He's just being so annoying. And like he won't come on, and he's like whining about how you're not coming on with him. Like, I'm sick of reading this shit.
Who are you talking about?
Talk about Simon Dan. Right, number one.
Nobody cares about you, bro. Go away.
No,
find your geometric horizon.
Right now, I do care. I've got a request for Simon Dan. If he wouldn't mind obliging, I'll ask politely as well. See if he'll actually do it.
You think he will?
Owen,
no, I don't.
Just wait one second.
I'm going to ask anyway.
There you go.
I'm going to ask him anyway, given his wisdom and his knowledge of science. I'd love to hear his explanation. So, Simon Dan, if you're listening, and I know you are, so go back and record my words. If you get a 2-liter bottle of pop, right? You take the lid off it, and in a day or two, it'll go flat. Given the context of the environment that the 2-liter bottle of pop sits in, it sits in an atmosphere of air, right? And inside the bottle of pop, we've got carbon dioxide. It's infused into the liquid, and that's what escapes. Given that we're in a gravitational field, according to you, and given that it's pulling on the heavier molecules because there's more mass to carbon dioxide, can you explain to me what is the mechanism that allows the gas pressure to escape, the carbon dioxide to escape, given that the gas molecules are in the nitrogen-oxygen environment that we live in at 14.7 psi? How is it that the carbon dioxide escapes, given that that's in a gravitational field? Thank you.
Okay, so just to address Arwin, there's no obligation for anybody here if you want to join and you want to talk to me or anybody else on the panel, you can. The door is open. Likewise, there's no obligation. I say the same things to you guys when you're like, oh, I'm sorry I'm late. It's like, there's no obligation for you to be here. You're here out of choice. You want to be here, therefore you are. But without being rude to you, but I'll phrase it to you instead of Simon Dan, if you're not here, that's no hardship. You know, that's no problem. And I'm not going to phone you up and go, why aren't you here? Likewise, I'm not going to phone up Simon Dan and go, why aren't you here? It's up to him. If he wants to talk to me, he's expressing in the chat, I have addressed him already, that he wants to debate me, or so I could glean. I'm only paying half an eye to it. But nevertheless, you can, if you want to. Me, I don't give a crap. Do I want to talk to you numpties? No, sometimes I have to. You come on my show where you can talk to me if you want to. And you can if you want to. I don't want to. I don't care about you.
So does he want
won't
to?
do it though because he's a trans little girl and he needs a daddy to watch over him because he's so scared. He's so scared of the good old Nathan Oakley.
Hold on,
No
Nathan. He needs a debate.
Let's just drop the ad homs. No need. Absolutely
Yeah,
no
exactly.
need.
It's not an ad hom, it's a description.
There's no
Now,
need.
Hold on. Let him come and debate Nathan because he's obviously looking for answers. That's why he went to that astrophysicist. Am I correct? He wants to know. So let him come on.
Kudos for going to the astrophysicist, the BBC correspondent, Simon Dan. I did wonder why you didn't pick him up when he didn't answer your question that you asked him, which was, how do you have gas pressure without a container? He didn't answer that question. He stuttered and stumbled and waffled his way through an answer, and you didn't pick him up on it. I wonder why. Did you turn a blind eye to the fact that he didn't have an answer? Or was it the fact that you were just simply being polite? But yeah, go back to him and ask him. Ask him to... I've emailed him. I'm waiting for a response. I don't expect to get one because he thinks that we're all, I don't know, whatevers. But he didn't answer your question, Simon Dan, and you didn't pull him up on it. Shout out to your...
Yeah, but deep down inside, Anthony, he knows he didn't get an answer. That's why he's here. So come on.
Yeah, there's no pressure. You don't have to do anything. He's under absolutely no obligation whatsoever. Unless his desires draw him here, there's no obligation at all.
What happened with him and his duo
Reference
with... No, that's too old there. Now, wasn't he tagging along with Ranty now, doing some other shows? Now he's over here. Does he have a busy schedule?
I have no idea. I do not follow Simon Dan nor have any interest in what he does. Occasionally, like was the case with Mr. Cheswick, I believe, he mirrored part of an interview he did with that guy whose name I forget, the guy who hosts Sky at Night, right? Very popular show if you're an enthusiast in that sort of area. Anyway, well, good collar. And I'm like, great. But did I find it because I'm sat there watching Simon Dan's content? No, far from it.
Well, how could you? You don't even have reference frames.
That's, yeah, that's another issue. Shout out to Retro Bill, who says, a few coconuts for another great show. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really do appreciate the support, Retro Bill.
But Nathan, you do have an open panel, correct?
Yes, Neil.
So my question is, why are they on chat and not just coming on? I mean, if I got a good argument, like I'll go on Gem.
Because the peanut gallery's open today. Because they can be in chat. So they are. You know, you got to take your bones where you can get them.
We all know why they can't join. Because they get absolutely pummeled and they don't want to be seen spectacly publicly. They don't want to be a spectacle of getting absolutely hammered. You only have to ask Simon Dan, is gravity a force and can it accelerate matter? And he has to say, no, it's not. But he tells people in his own chats that it is a force. But when he comes on here, he has to admit that it's not. That's why he won't join.
Literally, it's not a force. End quote, George Musa.
You can think of it as a force, though.
No, but it emerges a force.
Thanks, Fight the Flat Earth.
An emergent force.
Yeah, but he might have... Yeah, I think he got onto something with that, you know? Even somebody as stupid and base as Fight the Flat Earth can at some point, by accident, actually get an interesting idea.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!